It's like 30, like 13 people in the room. Which I pretty much pegged that. I'm 1.1. No, I'm not. For number 2. It's a small life. I mean, the weather's a killer, but I'm just not leaning on that. But usually these panel ones bring out more people. So, I mean, it's still, what time? I don't even know what time it is. Samsung did this stupid update, and I can't figure out how my phone works. 7:23.
I don't even know what phones I gotta check. This is going to be problematic because the microphone is here and the virtual items are over there.
Well, after service, the table can be moved
We
back.
could have taken minutes.
Really would like it because we're making sure it's not blocking out.
Right, but the microphone is over here.
No, we've discussed about that. We're gonna pass the mic back and forth.
For the service. The microphone is here and the ritual items are there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I
no, not
thought you
for
were
the
gonna give
program,
Ann.
that's fine.
No, I got
My
it.
bad.
Frank, what songs did we say?
Don't worry, we have a verdict
I got
practice.
this, so I'll show you what I got.
Crisis has been a verdict.
Oh, we're good, we're good.
We're good.
I just have to sit here and do this because I can't do it. I got 500.
No, I just need about 3 inches more of the mic cord.
Okay, so we've got the candles and info. We've got Before Shlomo, we've got Zekut Sadiq. We have a color blessing and wine blessing. What we're going to start with Bim Bam. We start with Bim Bam, okay. And then we do the candle. I need a book because I need to know what I'm doing. And then, I'm sorry, I'm like, I'm really sorry, Frank. It just, we left the house with ample time. Okay, and they changed the meter to 10 o'clock, which was 10 o'clock. So, okay. So it's Bim Bam, then it's the candles.
And so number 2, I think, was we have a full array.
Right.
And
then we have, before the sharing of noise, we were going to do, we have Maya Fe Hayom, we've got Hine Matov, we've got Lois
let's do
Goy.
Hine Mato.
Okay.
So I can do this one.
All right, and then after that, it's all right. We're going to start with Bim Bam, then Hine Matov, then
So number 3, after the ladies from inspiration.
right is going to be we've got Amar Rabbi Akiva, we've got Lo Yisagoy.
Yeah, that was it.
All right, Lo Yisagoy. Okay, so it's Bim Bam, Hine Matov, Lo Yisagoy, and the last song is going to be. The final song is going to be, you want to end with Tine Matov?
They end with Hine Mato.
End with Tine Matov. So, you end with Lo Yisagoy too.
We have that. You know what? Why don't we do for the second song, instead of Hine Mato, let's do Amara Biakiva.
Okay, so first on Bim Bam, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Lo Yisagoy, and Hine.
So,
Okay.
Bim Bam, Akiva, Lois Agoy, and Hine Mato.
Okay. So just, I don't know if that song's in here. Lo Yisagoy is in here. Oh, it is. Okay. So, I need. Producer boy. And okay, I'm going to tell people what page to. So Bim Bam is on page 40. Is page 39. Page 50. I'm just writing that here in my total is okay. I got the page numbers, that's why I just wanted to. All right.
Are we okay?
We can start. We should start. I feel better now that I got a set up and working. We were to let them know Rebecca's not here, and that's why I'm sitting here at the computer. You know?
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. People have to talk.
So we have a very interesting program this evening, and I would like to ask everyone if they could take their seats, and we'll start. So our song number 1
Start with Bim Bam,
is Beam Bomb,
which is on page 40.
which is on page 40.
Okay. Rebecca Goldfarb is not here tonight, and fortunately, I have the videos that Rebecca Schwartz left us with before she left. So while I can't play the videos, I can definitely play the music. So that's why this weird setup is in the front of the room. Okay. All right. Page 40.
Yeah, put the mic near the speaker.
The speaker is going to be very loud.
Oh, okay.
So just keep in mind that our forefathers and mothers, when they were chanting their songs in Poland and Russia, wherever they were,
Why
they
is
did
this?
not
Wait a
have
minute,
any
something's
kind of
not working.
setup. No electronics
Something isn't
at
working.
all.
Wait a minute.
So we are on
It's
page
not
40 with
playing.
Bing Bong.
It's not playing. It was playing before. I got it to work before, and now it's not working. Wait a minute. It's not working.
Hey, how about we just sing it?
No, I had this working before. I don't understand. It's not working. Yes.
It's okay.
It was definitely working.
You want to try it on our own?
No, I want to see if I can get this to work because I had it working. It's not working. Yes, it's playing. Okay, I can hold the microphone up to the. Okay, this is embarrassing because it was working before.
It's okay.
It's not okay.
We can sing Shabbat Shalom.
Wait a minute, I figured it out. I figured it out. It went back to low volume and it was not. Okay, let me try it now. Okay, it should work now. Okay, I don't know why it's not working. It's not, Jim.
Okay, it's fine.
I know you are, it's not working.
Can I just, how about this? Why don't we sing Bim Bom?
Okay, that's fine. It's just that the whole point was last week we couldn't make the streaming work, and this week we can't make the technology work.
Okay, but we can make our throats and
Sing
mouths
loud.
work. So we'll sing
Yeah, I
loud.
know. I just-
Everybody knows this song, hopefully. Bing Bong. It's on page 40, number three. Bum, bim, 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 bum, bim, 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 bum. Bim, bum, bim, 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 bum, bim, 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 bum. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Okay. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Beautiful. Bim, bam, bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, bam, bim, bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. I think I might be able to get this to work. Okay, maybe our next song. Yeah, I just want to. Okay. So we, Lauren, would you come up and read our welcome? Thank you.
Okay. The past, present, and future are timelessly linked in the spinning circle of life. Our past was the seed that became the present. We can make it bloom in the future if we nurture it with love, respect, and understanding of the shared culture and heritage that we call life. Next is the candles.
Now, when I was handing out my little cards, I forgot to do candle lighting. So would somebody like to do the candle lighting? Yes? It's a very important part of the service. So, okay, thank you, Paula. I even pre-lit the candles like Martha Stewart said, so you should have no problem. So we're on page 5.
We renew ourselves for the week ahead.
So that we will have strength for ourselves, our families, and our part in making the world a better place.
We kindle the lights of Shabbat as symbols of human enlightenment and human compassion.
Celebrate our coming together.
To illuminate our lives and the warmth we find in our community.
We remember the generations before us through the candles that we do and found beauty and serenity in their life.
Let us say together,
Na'eh ha'or ha'olam, Na'eh ha'or ha'adam, Na'eh ha'or ha'shabbat, Na'eh ha'or ha'shabbat. How wonderful is the light in the world, how wonderful is the light in humanity, how wonderful is the light of Shabbat.
we cherish the light of Shabbat.
Let's see if I can get it to play this time. Now we sing Eifori.
Eifori on page 7. Ori, Eifo tikati, Eifo koki, koki, Begamba, Begamba, Eifo koki, koki, Begamba, Begamba, where is my light? My light is in thee. Where is my hope? My hope is in thee. Where is my strength? My strength is in thee. And in you, and in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in thee. And in you, and in you. we'll continue with our values. On page 8 in the book, and Wendy's going to help us out with that. Thank you.
On Shabbat, we celebrate and reaffirm our Jewish identity.
The Jew is someone who identifies with the history, culture, and future of the Jewish people.
We make connections to our past through our ancestors and to our future by leading meaningful lives.
We believe that Jewish identity is best preserved in a free, pluralistic environment that honors all cultures. We believe in the nobility of fellowship and the joy of unity.
The freedom and dignity of the Jewish people must go hand in hand with the freedom and dignity of every human being.
Human beings possess power and responsibility to shape their own lives, independent of supernatural authority.
Jewish history is a human saga, a testament to the significance of human power and human responsibility.
We believe in the gift of human reason and strength human potential of our lives.
Thank you. Yasha Kala. So we'll go to page 10, sharing of our joys, concerns, and sorrows. If someone has something that they want to say, I will point my mic in your direction.
I think I figured out what happened.
Yes.
No, I figured out what happened. Go. It's fine.
He's going to talk.
Oh, okay. We normally don't get up and use the microphone for that. That's why.
Okay.
Well, I can do it from here.
Because if everybody got up, we'd never, it's okay. Don't mind me.
Our daughter-in-law has just been accepted into a program.
No, she's going to be a lead kindergarten teacher in a brand new school this year. She's already in the master's program. She got the job she wanted.
Yay! Thank you. Someone else? Yes? We're doing shares, we're sharing concerns, good news, not so good news, something you'd like to share with the congregation. Yes?
Yes, I'm reacting to the selection of the code.
Yes?
I find it kind of hard, to be honest, especially on the basis that I was listening to a piece today on WBAI, where supposedly he played a very central role in a major section of this cover-up in Peru, involving several priests who were working under him. And of course, obviously that has not come to the fore in mainstream media, but from my perspective, I mean, I know a lot of Americans are thrilled that this is the first American pope, but he seems to be following the same trajectory of the collusion, conspiracy, and cover-up of this very serious abuse issue that has plagued, obviously, this faction for forever. And to the degree I find it that and a common circumstance, considering the state of the world and such, I don't know, I can't find this very exciting.
Thank you. Did everybody kind of hear what was said? Yeah. Anyone else?
I have a little, lighter note. I have my cousin's first grandchild is about to turn 2, and we're going to go to the party. And the big news is the custom-made juggling balls that I ordered for him. And I think we're going to have a future juggler to look forward to at some point in the future.
Passing on the juggling tradition.
Yes?
Hi. I graduated from college today. full-time job back in Seattle, and I'm getting published, and I'm just super happy to be here in Seattle.
Beautiful. Anyone else? We will continue with our reading for inspiration. So if you can turn to page 14. And I chose for this evening a little bit because of our discussion, our panel discussion, the Sigmund Freud. I had the greatest respect for the authorities of my day until I studied things for myself and came to my own conclusions. So I would like to put out there, in case someone would like to discuss this a little bit, how has humanistic Judaism influenced your thinking about traditional and conventional Judaism? Yes.
Well, one thing is, well, my thinking about it relates to the program today. I think there are very few synagogues that will feature a program such as we're having, and it's one reason that I like to belong to this.
Thank you.
Yeah, on that same note, I think this is the biggest turnout that we've had in a long time for a program. And because this program is so symbolic of why humanistic Judaism,
Thank you.
and why we have this conversation.
Thank you. Yes.
So I was brought up secularly with a strong Jewish identity. Howard was brought up religiously. But I think that attending regular services and being involved year after year in a congregation where they were moving for me, I do think you'd be a much deeper appreciation of what traditional Judaism means in people's lives, more than like seeing your family did. It was more personal thing and a greater appreciation.
Thank you. Yes.
I think that most people, if they really think about it, they're humanists in their religion. Most people, Jews, Christians, Muslims, whatever, aren't going to services because they think God is up there like checking boxes. They're going because they enjoy the community, they like the songs, they feel happy taking a break from the modern world for a couple hours a day. And I think that what's neat about us is that we admit it.
That's great. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I think humanistic Judaism, I grew up as a humanist Jew in Chicago, has allowed me to define Judaism as what it means for me as I age in the current world, as opposed to going to synagogue and it defining it to me.
Thank you. Thank you. I have very often spoke to people who say, are you religious or are you not religious? And I really hate that term, religious, in the way it's used conventionally. Because the word religion comes from the Latin word religio, and the word ligament is connected to that too. So religious means what you tie yourself to, what values that you tie yourself to. And I feel kind of mad when they say, you're not religious. Yeah, I am religious. I have values and I keep to them, and they're very important to me. They might not be the same values you have, but we're kind of dismissed as someone who is not, we're not Jewish enough because we're not religious or whatever that happens to be. But we are ethical.
you know, and that's what we tie ourselves to. And quite honestly, if you had Judaism on the line and you had complete atheism on one end and complete Orthodox Judaism on the other end, that's the only reason why we're sitting here tonight. It's this dynamism between the two. We're always battling with each other, and we're coming up with something that is meaningful for us. And so I kind of like, you know, the discussion we had tonight, and I'm really looking forward to a panel discussion because I think we're going to be hearing different views about what it means to be connected to humanistic Judaism, and I think that's going to be really wonderful.
I just wanted to say I figured out what was wrong, and I think it will work now. The power was off.
Are we allowed to say hallelujah?
I guess. No, somebody must have hit the power strip, and this was working with this one.
Okay.
So I think it should work now.
So with that, we'll sing Lo Yisa Goy.
Rabbi Frank?
Yes.
I just wanted to make just another comment.
Sure.
About the religious what we were talking about, and that is that on my way here, I was listening to kind of a sound piece on WMSC about how anti-Semitism and such has become such a frontline issue in the mayoral campaign. And I think that as humanistic Jews, we really have to address and try to counter the way we are being exploited in this campaign, in this race, because it is so divisive, and it really, in many ways, it's hitting Jews against other Jews regarding the whole, Israeli issue, and I just think that it's become a very, very forefront issue, and again, because of the basis of the size of the Jewish community in New York, and I just think that the humanistic Jewish community can really play a very critical role in how to better define what is going on.
And I really appreciate that. And you know, the thing about it is that since biblical times, Jews have always been played, one group against the other. This is nothing new. It happened in World War II. There were Italian fascists in Mussolini's party until they were no more. They were gone. You know, so we have to be careful not to fall in the trap of being played, because we are, you know, and the powers that be kind of know how to get to us. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Hopefully this will work now.
Anyone else? Okay, Lo Yisa Goy.
Let's try and see if this works now.
Page 50.
Page 50.
It's working.
All right.
Go, Rebecca.
It's supposed to work. Oh, for goodness sake. You can sort of hear it.
Lo Yisa Goy, El Goy, Lo
Everyone be strong and free, shall live in peace and harmony. Everyone be strong and free, shall live in peace and harmony. Their souls, nations society, one more, and society to their souls, nations society, one more.
Okay. Don't hold the microphone.
Okay. So we will continue now with our families. Carol, on page 27.
There are many ways to connect. There are many ways to belong. Some people find a loving partner and choose commitment. Some have children and nurture them with tender care. Others live the single life. Strangers and strangers can become good friends. Good friends can become as close as family. Clans and tribes, nations and peoples all embrace their members and give them the security of identity and roots. The ever-changing contemporary unit family challenges our notions and stereotypes of a model family unit. Many Jews who have felt excluded from the tribal family for years past still hope to find their place within the Jewish community. Secular culture has new models of what constitutes a family. Single mothers and fathers, non-married adults who co-parent, gay couples, couples without children, and families of one are only some of the examples of the expanded definition of a modern family. Our congregation seeks to expand our understanding and make space for everyone. As the Jewish community grows in its awareness that Jewish families come in varied configurations, including intercultural and interracial families, so too may our institutions grow to be open to the diversity of families today.
With so much emphasis on traditional families, unmarried adults often feel sidelined in Jewish communal life. As more adults remain single, let us be clear that they are a welcome, integral part of our humanistic Jewish community. So we will continue now with For Those in Need on page 28. In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we now turn our minds and hearts towards those who need our love, who are ill, who are lonely, who suffer pain, or who have been wronged. So at this time, I'd like to ask you to mention any names that you have.
Larry Lipson, a friend of mine, who is now being treated for depression, severe depression, in a psychological facility.
Thank you. Yes.
Judith Shallett, who's a distance member of our community. She's in a rehab right now because of it's been involved. We hadn't heard from her in a while.
Thank you.
Last week, if you were here last week, you heard me mention my friend Terry, who had been in the hospital because unfortunately she was on the wrong end of the problem with her granddaughter's boyfriend. But then this week she found out that she is going to need cardiac bypass surgery. So she's been having a very bad week. So I'm thinking about her very much.
Thank you. Yes.
A friend of mine's father's in the hospital in Canada. She's like staying in the hospital 24/7.
Thank you.
Friend Samia, who's having a difficult pregnancy.
My sister Daisy is in the process of surgery.
Thank you. we'll continue now with our memorial on page 29. Let us proclaim the preciousness of life. Let us embrace the whole world even as we wrestle with its parts.
Let us each our own way, take our share of serving the world, seeking truth.
May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit, peace of mind in ourselves and others.
Let us say, believe, may it be so.
Any special names for the memorial? Yes.
My friend Casey's piercing birthday is today.
And it doesn't have to be your outside if you'd like to mention someone's name, please do. Yes.
My uncle Richard Zorza, I'm not sure how many years it is now.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm having problems with my stepbrother, whose birthday is the same as mine yesterday, died last year. My aunt Doris died the end of January, birthday. My father, John Carter. My mother and the granddie's birthday today was.
Yes. The daughter that you're planning, my birthday was today. She died at 60.
My sister Judy Butler, who died last June. Anyone else? Zecher Tzaddik, which is
on page 31.
On page 31. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that song. I introduced it in Westchester. They wrote it up there too.
We celebrate the fruit of the vine and nature's gifts. As we bend nature to our pleasure, we also think about our duties as caretakers of this planet. We dedicate this wine to the joy of Shabbat, to the lives of generations past and generations to come, and to the planet that sustains us. Na'im ha'chayim ba'olam. Na'im ha'chayim ba'olam. Na'im v'g'altem ha'agatim l'chaim. We celebrate the life within the world. We celebrate the life within us. We cherish those who grow and tend the fruit of the vine. L'chaim, to life. Breaking bread together is an ancient custom in many cultures. It signifies sharing, fellowship, and coming together in peace. We reenact this ritual together as a sign of our common humanity, our care for one another, and for those less fortunate than ourselves. Let us say together, Na'e Ma'ana Hamazon, Na'e Ama Kapenu, Na'e Lahem Ha'aretz V'Te'avon. How wonderful is the gift of food. How wonderful is the work of our hands. How wonderful is the bread of the earth. We cherish those who bring forth bread from the earth. Na'e Ma'ana Hamazon, Na'e Ama Kapenu, Na'e Lahem Ha'aretz V'Te'avon.
It's raisin bread.
Yeah, it's good, looks good. Raisin bread.
She did it. Wonderful. So Rabbi has something to say. Consider this central teaching of Hillel. That which is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. The rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Several years ago, one of our humanist rabbis, Greg Epstein, wrote a book called Good Without God. This book addresses a question that I, as a humanist rabbi, often get asked. Don't you need a belief in God to tell you what is right or wrong? Of course, humanists say absolutely not. Though from our Jewish perspective, we often ask, what is the determinant of goodness and ethics in our tradition? In other words, is something good because the Torah commands it, or does the Torah command it because it is good? Rabbi Daniel Hartman, in his book, Putting God Second, talks about the primacy of ethics in Jewish tradition. He cites that according to Maimonides, the ethical is the standard by which even the Torah should be judged and corrected when necessary. Goodness is something independent from the Torah, and the Torah's commands. Divine commands are not enough to determine what is good, and in fact, the Torah's commands must be judged by their conformity to the ethical command against harming others and doing what is right and just. In other words, don't become a fundamentalist and go and stick to the letter of the law when it goes against human reasoning. This may seem counterintuitive to the sensibilities of many religious people, but Hartman argues that it is inevitable. The Bible is subject to human interpretation in Jewish tradition. He argues that whether divinely ordained or human-based, ethical knowledge ultimately ends up in the same place. The human being is either the original source or sole interpreter of the content of the ethical principles and their application. Humanity, not God, determines what is good. This leads to the question of what does it mean to be a good Jew? Rabbinic Judaism places emphasis on Torah study, mitzvot, and prayer. Humanistic Judaism's emphasis is similar. Studying Jewish texts, traditions, and history leads us to affirm our responsibility to care for ourselves and others. There is no one else to do it for us, no divine intervention. While the idea of mitzvot in the religious sense of fulfilling commandments is not central to humanistic Judaism, doing good deeds is fundamental to our philosophy. And the colloquial understanding of a mitzvah as being a good deed should not be diminished or forgotten. Prayer is not a practice of our humanistic Judaism, but reflection and meditation are. This is usually reserved for Shabbat and holidays. but setting aside a time each day for reflection or meditation can be an invaluable practice to our development as human beings and our connection to Judaism. Even though we have different emphasis, we are not really so different after all. The study of our tradition, good deeds, and reflection are the central practices of our humanistic Judaism. Shabbat Shalom. And for that, we'll
Thought there was a music moment so I can buy a little time. Before I read this concluding thought too, this may have occurred to you. It's occurred to me listening to this guy on the balcony in Rome say something very similar I'm about to read, which makes it very universal. And I think for the first time we may recognize and give it a little more emphasis and community to this. So let's read this and see if you feel the same way maybe as I did at home yesterday afternoon. Let us stand together now to proclaim our shared ideals and our will to act on them. Let us remember those who have come before us, who have given us life, love, and culture. Let us work together in mutual aid to benefit all. Let us make a world of beauty to be shared by every living being. Let us be thankful for all we enjoy in life. Let us work for peace in our relationships, our communities, and our world. Let us recognize and celebrate our differences. Does it resonate with anybody from yesterday? Okay. Not alone.
Dashakar. Thank you.
So we're going to do Hine Matov.
And our final song is Hine Matov.
It's coming up.
It's coming up. Sheberachim Gam Yavam, Hine Matov U'Manayim, Sheberachim Gam Yavam, Hine Matov, Sheberachim Gam Yavam, Hine Matov, Sheberachim Gam Yavam. Thank you. And I would just like to echo Carol's comment from before. It's really beautiful to see our sanctuary filled the way it is tonight. It's wonderful. And I hope we'll see much, much more of this in the future. And
I want to apologize about the technology. I swore it was working, but oh well. I'm just going to give a brief introduction.
Sure.
Technology never works when you want it to. Fortunately, Jason, who is doing our streaming, knows more than I do, and his technology works. Thank you, Daisy.
I just want to introduce very briefly Dolly Remler, who is going to lead tonight's discussion with 4 of our members. It's going to be Titus Churcher, Jim Ryan, Cynthia Chalker, and who's the 4th person? I'm sorry. Oh yes, Mustafa Chishti. I'm sorry. I didn't see you sitting there, and I saw your face. I know it was you, but I'm looking. I can't see anything.
Anyway, thank you, Dahlia, for organizing this wonderful program. We're very much looking forward to a fabulous discussion. So thank you.
Okay, please, panelists, come up. We're gonna get moving. So, thank you everybody for doing this. So, Howard and I joined the congregation in.
Do you want to use the mic?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes, the microphone helps.
And we even figured out we can help around, I hope. That was the plan. We think it'll be okay.
That's why I'm guessing.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
All right. Howard and I joined in 1999, and one of my motivations was to connect with my Jewish heritage, which I very much saw as an ethnic and cultural thing. And that is what has brought many TCC members here. But humanistic Judaism is a very wide tent, as you heard with the principles, and we're open to people from a wide variety of backgrounds, to have a wide variety of participations and belief, both people who are and are not of Jewish heritage. So listening to some of the people here got me intrigued. So as you heard, we have Cynthia Chalker, raise your hands, Titus Chichir, Jim Ryan, and Musfar Chichi. Am I get the stresses right? No. No, I didn't. Okay, so the way it's going to work is I'm going to ask a series of questions. So we're going to go through the panel multiple times and in different orders, and hopefully also have a lot of interaction within the panel and with you guys. So the first question is just briefly, what is your heritage background, religious, ethnic, and relevant? And how did you come to join TCC? And I think that in the interest of pragmatism, we should, even though I was going to mix it up, go in the same order and just pass the mic down.
Okay, sure. First of all, I just want to thank Talia for inviting me. I think we spoke last year in one of the high holiday events, and during our discussion, she was like, it would be great to have you in a panel and just talk about my heritage and how I've come to be in the congregation. So thank you for following up and setting up this. And also, as a form of introduction, my name is Titus Chip. The R is rolled. And I'm a Kenyan. I was born in Kenya, and I stayed there I was there for about 18 years. I came to the US for my undergraduate studies, and I've stayed since then, so I've been here for about 15 years. And in terms of being raised, I was raised as a Christian. I think what you would call a Pentecostal Christian. And one of the things that, the way I made it to the congregation was through my wife, Rachel. So Rachel is over there. She was the one who found this congregation through, I think she was doing some Google searches, and she saw that the Rabbi Emeritus, the late Rabbi Peter Schweitzer, was an alumni of our college, Oberlin. And through that, she reached out to him and was able to find the congregation, and it resonated with her values, and we signed up for the program. So it was that way that I got to be part of this congregation. And and I think that was around 2015. Yeah. So since 2015, I've been part of the congregation, and I think we'll talk through more. I will not go further, but what I would say is, like, I'm now, one thing I would highlight about this congregation that I really like is its inclusiveness, and one of that, the manifestation of that is I'm a board member in this congregation, which I didn't think I would be. So thank you, Susan, for inviting me into the board, and yeah, thank you. I'll go further into my heritage later.
That's why.
First off, thank you all for coming, and thank you, Dolly, for getting this put together. In case you missed it at the beginning of the program, my name is Jim. My tradition is very strongly Roman Catholic, so much so that had my father been even more so and continued his study to become a Franciscan, we might not be having this conversation in this format. But of course, he ended up rethinking a few things, and one thing led to another. And speaking of leading from one thing to another, my wife Susan and I got married in 1996, and we had the question: what was going to be the faith framework that we were going to have around us? We wanted to have something, but because we weren't going to say, ah, screw it, there is nothing, and just go. But we did want to have something, some form of community. To be honest, a lot of religion is first and foremost finding people of a like temperament in order to be able to share. And we had looked at a number of different options, both Reform and Conservative Judaism had a number of issues in terms of how well I could participate in it. Orthodoxy was straight out. Not every parish in the Catholic Church was willing to allow even a couple of steps, which still would have. We did not find anything where any other faith would have had a two-class system, where one of us was more so welcome than the other. And when we were looking a little bit further, Susan and I found the city congregation. We went to our first meeting here, I believe it was March of 1997.
In Rabbi Peter's apartment.
Yes, Rabbi Peter Schweitzer's apartment, which is a fascinating place to be. If you've ever been to the Museum of Jewish Heritage, that was basically his apartment, but in a much more condensed form. And when we got here, we were very welcomed, and there was no barrier between either of us being able to participate at any level. And as a result, we stayed with city congregation the whole time, raised our son through it, and ended up, we're still very much a part of this, with all the good and bad days. Yes. Thank you.
My name is Cynthia Schoffer. I joined my family with Sandy Carter and his son Ben, my son Ben. Sandy and Ben were part of the congregation way before I knew about it, 1994, wow. Sandy and I actually were supposed to meet, it was the year exactly after 9/11, and Sandy had been president of the congregation, and it's going to be the first, it's going to be the first high holiday service since 9/11. So she was supposed to come to a party where I was supposed to meet her, but she didn't come because she was here for holidays, and there was a thought, it was like, I didn't want to come. No, so, but Sandy and Ben, it was important for Sandy to be a part of, for Ben to have a Jewish education. She could tell you about her life on her own, but I guess briefly, her family is Jewish from, and has a Holocaust story of their own from Romania and Hungary. So, and I really like traditions. I really like kind of routines, but really interested in different cultures. I grew up as African American in school, which was founded by two men who were enslaved by someone, and blacks weren't allowed to, slaves weren't allowed to be a part of the downstairs congregation, but the enslaved people could be in the balcony. And these two men decided that they had enough of that. And so basically I grew up in the religious tradition of Methodists, and Episcopalian is part of how they choose their hierarchy. So that's how I came to the congregation. Then it's 31. Did a bar mitzvah here. I was a mentor for some of the children who came through bar mitzvah program. And Sandy and I's wedding was, because there were a couple of them, but the big one and the first one was officiated by both Peter Schweitzer and my good friend Roger Broadley. So we had a rocky
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks all for coming in. Thank you, Dahlia, for the
probably may hold the world record that you invited us like months in advance. And
Yeah.
you held us to the date, and none of us changed our minds. So.
Rosh Hashanah, that's last Rosh Hashanah. The prior one was when I got Titus.
My name is Muzaffar Chishti. I'm mostly known as Muz in this world of work and now in this congregation. I was born in a part of India called Kashmir, which is on the northmost center. It's a difficult neighborhood. It borders about 5 countries and therefore is constant in conflict. I grew up Muslim. I grew up kind of in the Sufi Muslim tradition. My grandfather was a very highly respected Islamic scholar. I learned the Quran at 6, old, and we used to go to the mosque. My grandfather also led the services, and I grew up chanting and doing sort of Sufi chants and zikrs. And I came to the U.S. to go to law school, and I met my wife, Aline, who's here, who came from both German and Eastern European tradition from her parents. Her father was a German migrant, so he and I would probably have more in common than anything else. So when we got married, we were actually not looking for home to raise our kids in, or for us to merge our faith to do something combined. I think we were kind of intensely driven by the belief that we'll raise our kids with dual identity. And therefore, when they began to come close to the age which normally you would have a bar mitzvah at, we decided we needed a place which could accommodate coming of age in both faiths, and which would respect it and allow us to create our own. So that's what essentially led to our hunt, and we looked at places and found this congregation. We met with Peter, who obviously was a highbrow intellectual, that's all we know. But he was also very innovative. I mean, he had never faced a challenge like this, but he never, shirked from a challenge. He said, we'll find a way for you to have a ceremony which will honor the tradition of both. So that's what we did. So we came to this congregation, frankly, for totally pragmatic reasons of finding a place where we could have a coming of age celebration. And good thing about that is that we're all, in many ways, exploring. One thing about, in my experience about having joint faiths, is that you always have to write your own program. There's no written program for you to follow. It's a challenge. It's not easy. Even for us to do our wedding ceremony was not easy because there was no formula to follow. So that makes it obviously interesting, but also makes it challenging. So when this congregation decided to have the first coming in age of the Muslim Jewish, it sort of then became the model for a lot of other families around the country. So when people would ask us, so we are now thinking we also mixed faiths, what do we do? There was at least now some template to give. So in that regard, it was not just for us, it became for other people who would have similar challenges. And that proved to be a reward.
So, hold on. In the interests of pragmatism, I hope it's okay. I think we'll go in the reverse order for the next question. So some of the panel have already touched on this, but I want to ask, what roles do Jewish traditions and practices play in your sort of regular life, whether that's changed over time? So certainly TCC, humanistic Judaism ones, but Jewish holidays, Jewish traditions. So it's okay, we'll go back. We'll start you.
Sure. So, I mean, it's kind of odd, first of all. I like Helene first. I was strangely more Jewish than Helene was. Because my first job in this country was with the International Ladies Government Workers Union. So I arrived and got immersed in New York Jewish culture, literally. I mean, I had no choice. I ate gefilte fish the first 3 days of my stay at New York. So I was listening to Jewish humor, I was listening to Jewish tradition, I was meeting all Jewish leaders constantly. So to me, this was like coming to, I was seated. So when we started doing, after we got married, we thought that Helene was keen on doing something for the Sabbath. It had been the tradition, so secular as it was. So we do some Sabbath event if we are home. Even if all of us are not home, whoever is at home does something. So we know that the week has ended, the week is beginning. We do a very strong Passover tradition, which we decide to do a combined again tradition. So we have a regular Passover, which at least 12 or 14 people come. And Sister Susan comes from Baltimore area. But the only addition to that we instilled a few years ago is that I would cook the main lamb dish. So the lamb was inserted into that as a tradition. So I cook actually Kashmiri lamb dish, which it takes a long time to cook. That's the problem. But I do it. I may not do it. And then finding the right lamb first of all is the problem. Finding a butcher who will get shanks, and he will cut the shanks in 4 pieces for you. Really, you have to tip them heavily, my tip, but they will do it well. So I cook the lamb dish, which has now become tradition. It was recently featured in the Jewish food magazine. So that's our combined tradition.
Like you, I am sometimes the most Jewish person in my family. Maybe I'll tell this story to sort of, illuminate this. Celia and Matt, and at the time I lived in Philadelphia, and I was, and my housemates were a Wesleyan couple with a child, with a baby, and very involved in their Reconstructionist synagogue. And these are some of the nicest, most ethical, warm, people I think I've ever encountered, ever met. And they were very welcoming to me because I had been in a kind of dire straits when I come to work with them. So, and one of the things they did was they bake bread every Friday morning for dinner, and then whoever was in their neighborhood, in their community, who might not have a place to be on Shabbat, they would be invited. And both of them are writers. One of them a professional writer, who's actually in the talk. They were such great people. They were also there were some dietary restrictions, and so they weren't kosher, but they didn't eat pork, or they ate seafood. So their diets did have some versions of dietary things that lined up with Judaism. So Sandy and I met, I came to New York, we had dinner at a Portuguese restaurant in the 80s, or no longer, just there. And I'm kind of itchy because I'm like, okay, there's something more coming in here. What do I do? So so finally, so Sandy said, how about some chorizo? And I said, do you eat pork? He said, yeah. Because, the place my family is from, of course you eat pork. And so I'm like, oh, okay. But then the first gift I gave to Sandy was a Shabbat breastplate and 2 Shabbat kettlebells. And again, I'm the one that pulls them out. And then the other thing is I am Christian, this is better than 5 pieces of paper. And I had long ago stopped doing Christmas trees and giving presents, expensive presents. They were notes and flowers and candy or whatever. And I moved to this family, and now we have Christmas tree. We have Christmas Eve, very steep tradition, and I do Easter every now and then. So, but and I'm the one who keeps the dates of the politics. Sandy's no slacker. I'm being silly, but I'm very involved, and Seder is really important. That's what I'm really me.
Well, after we got married and started coming here, we started to blend our traditions a bit. During Christmas time, of course, we would have the tree go up. Easter, we keep a little bit of a tradition that I insist that every morning there has to be hollow chocolate bunny for me to find. Don't judge. In the meantime, I was wanting to share a lot with Susan, and a lot of the traditions that came here that through city congregation were very welcoming, as opposed to, I'd never really been to a Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur service for the high holidays until I started coming here, and it's a very moving, lovely service. We always have a Seder which has developed from a nice meal to a social event that a number of people put on calendars. And as of late, after COVID started locking us down, during times we would have an online, those would also be the nights we would have an active Shabbat. And I actually was kind of enjoying that. Because having grown up with too much pressure and not having the ability to let things down for a little bit, having something that's an active reset button is something I found very comforting, and I can appreciate more the ritual of Shabbat in terms of, if for nothing else, than just simply to say, okay, take a second, count to 5, it'll be okay. And in many ways, I was actually finding more that I could take and hold from the Jewish traditions that were coming in than I was with the other traditions I'd grown up with.
Yeah, so I guess I will start with lox, latke, and bagels. So I think those kind of shot up my list of things I enjoy to eat, and Rachel would attest that I enjoy lox and bagels. So that's one thing, the first and foremost. Secondly, I think I see a lot of parallels between what happens, the traditions and the culture within the Jewish community as I experienced growing up. Like some things like circumcision, it's part of our tradition as well, although it happens later on in life. And then the bar mitzvah, which happens at the age of 12. In my community, it's usually combined with the circumcision ceremony, where you go out, you learn how to be a man, and the women have a separate session where they kind of transition from childhood to adulthood. So see a lot of parallels between that, and also in terms of the food. I know, like here, like when you eat meat, you don't mix with the milk. That was a tradition that was there with our community since age old. Like even before Christianity came into my community, that was something that was there. And I've been searching to see if there is a connection between my people are called the Kalenjins. So if you see the top athletes that run around, those are from my community. And if one of the origin stories from our community that we are a group of people called Nilots, and that the root word is Nile, so we immigrated from River Nile. And one of the going theories is that we came down from Egypt, and I'm guessing around the same time you guys went. We didn't get the memo. We went. So I see a lot of parallels between our traditions and also like the way we kind of conduct ourselves. I see my community, there's a lot of use of humor, like in conveying like difficult messages or kind of coping with a difficult historical moment. So those are things that I really appreciate with the Jewish tradition that I see parallel to where I am from. And one thing I want to say is like growing up, like my church, I think one of the things I really was a culture shock when I came to the US was that Christianity is mostly focused on the New Testament of the Bible. But growing up, a lot of our teachings were from the Old Testament. And I would say when I was in 6th grade, I really got into the Bible. And I read all the way from Genesis to Malachi, which is, I went through the Torah. And one of the things I really was tracking as I went through the stories, there was a lot of violence in there, of course, but there's the life journeys and the cyclical patterns, like the celebration of Passover and all the other offerings that were done in the tabernacle. So for me, that was a very theoretical piece of history that was not really celebrated. The closest was Easter, when we say like Jesus celebrated Passover before he was crucified, and that was it. But coming here, it's kind of, I got immersed into that culture, the tradition of celebrating events like the high holidays. I really enjoy those. So for me, I see a lot of parallels from where I've come from. And one of the things I appreciate is that everyone here is very welcoming. Whenever I come to the congregation, people talk to me as if I'm a member of the community, which I am. But like Carol always comes in with a smile and says hello, Peter. And so I really appreciate all this. And I think some of the things that I've been visiting, I've gone to Kenya a couple of times since, and one of the times I took one of the Haggadahs to Kenya because my dad was saying, I'm raised Christian, but I don't go to church. I want to start my own religion. So I brought the Haggadah, and he was like, this is a good way to live. So he was going to start like his own congregation based on the Haggadah because it really resonated with him. So for me, I see a lot of synergies between, while my history is very different, it's not too different. So I appreciate the welcome that you've had for me, and I am glad to be a part of the congregation and to be a board member. I'm happy to serve, and yeah.
Several of you have already touched on this, but if you have more to add, I wanted to know about what part of the traditions of your heritage you practice, whether you see any conflict, whether other people, family or friends from them times see a conflict, and how these parts of your identity mesh. And as some of you have touched on this already, anything you want to add on that or anything else? It's our last round.
You're passing?
Okay.
I think I pretty well covered it. Considering the format, I think we'll do a Q&A in the informally once the Onig starts. But again, as long as I've got the mic here, thank you all for coming tonight.
Just, again, several of you touched on this, but to the extent you practice traditions of your heritage or people from your background, are they uncomfortable with this? Just how does that background mesh? Several of you did talk about that.
How does it mesh? My mother is very, she still is part of the Annie tradition and has gotten more religious, for want of a better word, as she's gotten older. I grew up in DC in a time in a community that was mostly Black, and I guess if I think about a Christian. So I didn't, until we moved to Maryland, which was more Jewish, and a bigger Jewish community, and we got out of school for the high holidays, which was kind of cool. But it wasn't, my mom didn't have a lot to say about Judaism, and I didn't know that much about it either, actually. But I can say that after I lived with Sandy in New York for a long time, she got over the sort of, finally got over the Black, white, Jewish, Christian thing. Did I say lesbian? Okay. And she asked me, was I Jewish now? And I thought, no, but, I respect the traditions. And she was never, Jewish people are bad, but she's, heavy duty into, God would prefer it if you're going to have an afterlife, that you be a Christian. But she's really come around and, sends cards and remembers holidays and things like that.
I think that's a good question. Though we discount God in this congregation, no, God is important. Probably God cannot be ignored. Heritage. I grew up, we're monotheistic. That's a huge common tradition. I grew up with faith in Moses as a prophet. To me, Moses was as important a prophet as Christ or Muhammad. I believe strongly we were indoctrinated to Moses as a prophet, an important prophet. So I came to with reverence about Judaism. Second is that not many of you don't know, a lot of Jews were settled in India after World War II. So we came up with the tradition of an important Jewish population in India. That what had sort of invoked the plurality of Jews in Jewish tradition is part of that. Many of my teachers were Jewish. And I think the third part, which is very common, which strikes me all the time, are some very core beliefs. Like we fast as Jews. It comes natural to me. In that case, same thing about charity and the idea that you have to give charity is as core value. They're very familiar to me in that regard. And then sort of family. That family is core of who we are. Was something that you get connected to very quickly when you see sort of common values of Judaism and that.
Sure. So I think for me, one of the we got married twice. Me and Rachel. One wedding was here in New Jersey, officiated by Rabbi Tzemach, and there was kind of, I would say, I think your question is going towards where traditions and norms kind of almost clash. And I think for us, what we've been lucky, we found this congregation that was very welcoming and was, the rabbi was able to create a program that worked for us for our wedding. And I think as one of the panelists mentioned, it also was the same with Rabbi Peter. And one of the things, we just had our wedding actually in December in Kenya, and Rachel's mom is there. She was there in Kenya. And I think even the congregation there, the church where we had the wedding, was very welcoming and accommodating. And I think that stemmed from the fact that at least the church that I was in, the Jewish traditions are very core to the teachings there. It's not like the Jewish people, I think most churches people know about is that like, oh, the Jewish people are not to be associated with Christianity. But in my church, they were very welcoming. They're like, this is where our origins, the origins of our teachings are coming from, and they were very welcoming. So in that sense, we are very lucky in the sense we found a community here, and there's also a community there that is welcoming of Rachel and me, and you guys have been welcoming for us. So not much conflict. My mother is very religious Christian. It took her a while to kind of explain what religion Rachel is, and what she believes in is not exactly what she believes in, but when it comes to being a human, it's like we're doing the same thing. So I think that's been kind of our guiding principle, is that at the core of our beings, we want to live our values. We want to kind of not kind of shun our traditions, our cultures. We want to live with those, but at the same time be kind of accommodate. So I feel like for me, it hasn't been so much conflict. It's been more acceptance. Like Rachel's family has accepted me for my background. Like, of course, I'm not white, I'm not Jewish, but they were accepting of that. So I think that we should be kind of fortunate with that.
Well, thank you all the panelists. That was really great, and we see a wide variety of things. We want to have question and answers, and also the panel can interact. How much time do we have?
About 10 minutes.
Okay, that's not terrible.
I'll keep it on.
Okay, so either quickly come up to the mic or speak loudly. I want to open it up. And actually before that, since we'll do this, give a round of applause for they're right, I've been harassing them. Do you have the date? Do you have the date? Or you'll be there, change the date. So thank you all very much. That was wonderful.
Tough crowd.
Yeah. I don't know if this applies to the conversation, but with exposure in marriage, along the way, issues, if not have happened, or maybe will happen, or maybe not happen, about children. Does this ever become a factor in any discussion?
What do you
Or addressed at all?
Which aspect? I mean, I think.
Well, you know, okay, Graham was saying, how does one think of or have been raised? Just to take someone else's.
Well, I think
Well, I answered,
Jim
but we were
and
was raised in dual identity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was why.
I made this, sorry.
I mean, in our case, it was also dual identity. We did agree early on that there would be a B mitzvah program, as well as introducing him to all of the rituals and traditions and such that both of our sides have, which I think was for the best because it actually made him a very well-rounded individual. And I do recommend that if anybody were to ask me a general parenting question, I'd say introduce your kids to as much as possible while they're young. And we'll probably end up with a much better product than you think you were going to have. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ben and Sandy already were a part of the congregation, and part of Sandy, I know the search was so that Ben would have a cultural Jewish education, and I grew up going to church all the time. You know, what's a Sunday? As soon as I didn't have to do that anymore as an adult, I read the New York Times from beginning to end. You know, sleep in on Sunday, I had to read the newspaper. But I also respected, and I thought as a family it was important that we come as a family, that we operate as a family when it comes to this cultural education. So I am an Episcopalian. I'm very close and very active in my church in Philadelphia. And my good friends are still there. I don't do as much in New York, in part because I never found the kind of church community that spoke to me. But I do feel welcome and actually a very important part of the growth of the congregation. So I think sort of being a family and going on this journey has been really rewarding.
Okay, so Ernie.
Some of you have very deep connections to the scriptures. Those you mentioned the Quran, and I read deeply in the Bible. And I just wondered, for all four of you, are there still, or is there any one passage in the scriptures that you so deeply internalized earlier on that you still carry with you and that you still take into consideration?
Well, this is what I was saying, that it's hard to, we may not believe in God, but it's hard to disengage God. I think whenever a flight takes off, I will utter the same Quranic prayer I did. Whether I believe it or no, it just instinctively comes in. The very first chapter of the Quran. It's what I like to say is the executive summary of the Quran. When our daughter went to philosophy day school, our younger daughter, so the master there said, well, we believe in kind of universal philosophy, but we recite everything from our faiths. So you're the first Muslim family to come. So could you introduce us to something which would we recite? And so again, that's my challenge for you. I'm a professional Muslim. So I read the first, I'm sure you're familiar with it as much as the very first chapter of the Quran. I tell everyone should be read. It's so close to the God's prayer, which tells me that I can't. It's probably very close to some Talmudic prayer, because they're common heritage. I mean, it just is so little separates these three religions, especially. That was why, at some level, at the basic level, it was not hard for me, or hard for my family to accept Helene. I mean, to them, I think it was easier to accept her as a Jewish woman than a Hindu woman in India, because of all things. And, we have to just appreciate this.
Having grown up in the Christian faith, one of the songs that we learned years ago, because I went to Catholic school too. You can't have too many religions. But it's a simple thing. Peace, I leave with you, my friends. Shalom, my peace, and all you do. And that's something that I recite, especially when I'm on the subway.
Some time ago, there was a portion from my tradition. The Lord's Prayer has two lines in it that always struck with me. The line was, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." And there is a tradition within all of the faiths, especially here, and especially as stressed in humanistic Judaism, where you get as good as you give out. And the fact that this is kind of a universal gets incorporated into that. It's a very potent message that I do wish more people were cognizant of, because we might make things a little better around here.
Sorry. So for me, like one of the ones that resonates with me, because the Bible is kind of, I read it in terms of chapters and verses, and one of the words that resonates with me was, most people wouldn't think about, is the one that says Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. It just lists names, and it's like a whole list. And to me, I remember that verse because it's more about, and when I come to this congregation, there's all this remembrance. You remember the history, where you come from. And we have the Yatzai, listing people's names. And I see that as a Jewish tradition that I would have wanted to have in my community, where we remember the history of our people and pass it down. I feel like for my community, most of that has not been kept in terms of writing or being told. So just this list of names, to me, kind of resonates from the Bible, and I have taken that away. And even now, like with my family, we are planning to have like these annual meetings where people kind of come in and say what their achievements have been for the year, and kind of shout out to other people what they have done, because I feel that is important, even if it's a small part of the ritual here. I think it's a very grounding fact to kind of talk about your history. This is a person who lived, who had a history, and we can trace ourselves to that person. So it's a simple verse for me. It's a list of names. Most people don't pay too much attention to it, but to me, that was a part. I think it was in the book of Numbers, where there was a census of the people of Israel once they made it to Canaan. So that resonates.
Well, again, one more thing, yes.
I mean, I think just to generalize this, what we do,
Sorry.
you may think that this is kind of unusual, but this is the future of our country.
Yes.
More and more marriages are happening which are interfaith. So how we raise our kids is kind of the challenge of the majority of the country. It's really not unusual. I mean, the number of marriages we go to which are interfaith is much higher than the marriages we go to. So in that regard, the tradition that this congregation is setting is hugely, and doing it well is hugely important, and we're grateful that we're able to do it.
Thank you. All right, and then we have to get out.
Yes, well, no, we have an egg, so please eat food. And feel free to sit around and chat and all that stuff. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you both so much. That was wonderful.